What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Niners Nation podcast. This is the Gold Standard Podcast. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Levin Black. What's up, Levin?
I am Van Damtastic this week, Rob.
Yeah.
How's that work for you? Is that good enough, Joe?
That's what I'm talking about, baby. I know you bring the juice. I love that. You saved it.
You know, funny thing is I planned on doing that the whole time, but
Yeah,
I literally thought of that the other day. I was like, I'm going to have to go crazy at the start to get Joe pumped because he gave me crap last week.
You can do it, though. You can do it the whole time. Don't ever lose it. Just stay up here and just stay there. And then all of a sudden, after like one day, you're there, and then you're there for a week. And then before you know it, your whole life is just up here.
I got to
balance.
Rob,
you're just like the enthusiastic man.
Rob's like up here with his
right.
emotion at all times. I got to be a counterbalance sometimes.
Yeah, you're.
I mean, you haven't heard that guy whine. We've been winning every time you're on.
That's true. I do get pretty pissed. I'm not going to
Oh,
lie.
does he?
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. So I mean, that's a perfect transition. I think this is exactly why I'm here again.
Yes.
Exactly why I'm here again.
Well, we're going to get to that, Joe. We want to remind everybody, please rate, review, and follow the Niners Nation Podcast Network. So last week, we talked to you about superstitions, right? I only wear the 49ers socks during the game. I don't wear any of the gear because, you know, they've been winning when I've been doing that. So I kept it going. Levin, human wet blanket over here, tells me I'm an idiot. I'm so stupid. You're so arrogant. How could you even think that? We get done with the Instant Reaction Podcast last week. We're off the air. And Levin said, tell Joe, Levin, tell him what you said.
You're making such a big deal. So at the end of the game, I'm watching and I'm nervous, you know, obviously. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting here at like this during that final drive.
Rocking back and forth.
And, you know, a play happens. I don't remember what play it was, but we get a first down. And then I'm sitting here like this between the plays. I'm like, should I go back to this? Because that worked. And I'm sitting there having an internal battle. Like, does this really matter or not? You know,
right.
Like in the heat of the moment, like I'm sitting there fighting myself. Like,
that's right.
I actually have an effect nature. Or not. Yeah.
When the chips were down, what did you do? You are a fraudcaster, Levin Black. I don't ever want to hear you talk crap to me again. You're full of it.
This doesn't count.
It counts.
Well,
Joe.
I mean, I don't know for the people that are listening right now, they can't see exactly what he's doing, but he's more of a prayer than it is rocking back and forth. You are actually in the Hail Mary full of grace phase of your superstitions, which is the peak and pinnacle of all superstitions. When you start asking the Lord for favor on your team and not the others. So
right. Forget everyone else that might be calling on the Lord. Your request is more important.
I know the Lord only wants the Niners to win, so I will continue with my prayer pose.
That was always a pet peeve of mine. When a player would be like, well, first I want to, you know, thank so-and-so, you know, whoever they mentioned for allowing me to win. It's like, they didn't pick a side. You know?
Yeah. I don't want to make this in a religious podcast. That's
true.
It's a deep, dark tunnel that you can go down to, a whole sidetrack of a show right there. But, it would also, in the same vein, not irritate, but I would always be like, I mean, whoever you're praying to, I don't think he's choosing sides in this football game on Sundays.
The main point is Levin is a fraud, and I don't ever want to hear you criticize me again because you try to think you're above it, but you're just like the rest of us. Right? Joe is sweating through his clothes.
Nobody's perfect. I have a couple plays where I get into it and. You know, I couldn't let it go when it's an important enough moment. You know, early in the season,
you show emotion. It's good that you show emotion. That lets everybody know that you're alive inside. That's what I always tell everyone. You know, all I'm doing is letting everybody know that I'm alive. You know,
there you go.
So you don't know the whole backstory. Like Rob and I have talked about it. I am the way I am because if I allow my emotions out, anger is the one that tends to take over. Ooh, and when I was a kid, like I got in trouble a lot. I got in a lot of fights because I couldn't control my anger. And the way I controlled it was shut off emotions. And that just kind of led to the adult that I am.
Right. If there's anything
we could have a whole psychological episode right now.
Right. Just bottle it up. Right. That always works. I think we found through human history. If you just deny your emotions.
If you go to marriage counseling, that is the number one thing they say don't do is to bottle up the emotions. You got to communicate, man. Got to let them out. Got to have it. Like I said, got to be up here. Always up here.
Well, that's where I was after last week because we started the show last week. And I still, when I say it out loud, the 49ers beat the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field without scoring an offensive touchdown. Like, I still cannot believe that. There are a million different ways that game could have gone, and that's the one that I never would have dreamed of actually happening. How did they do it?
It was incredibly surprising to me because I thought going into that game, they were going to have to dictate the tempo running game. I thought they were going to have to be very efficient third downs. I thought they were going to have to score like 28 points to have a chance, because you had a quarterback that was coming off one of his best seasons of his Hall of Fame, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and in NFL history, in his own place. Like, I thought, as well as the defense was playing over the last half of the year, it was going to be really challenging. And that was the most surprising thing to me. Not that they came out victorious, but the way that they did it. And then also you add on that, besides the defensive great performance, special teams have been an absolutely Achilles heel for this team the whole entire year. And they are the real reason they won. I mean, all 3 points taken off or 10 points taken off the board. Yep. It was unbelievable. And that's what I love personally, like what I love most about football and what drew me to football at a young age. You know, much so I enjoyed track. I was a track athlete. I enjoyed track. I enjoyed baseball. I enjoyed basketball, but it's much more individualized. I, from a young age, love the team aspect of football, that you are not just counting on yourself to perform well, but you know, if you're having a bad day, there are 10 other guys on the offensive side of the ball that can lift you up. And, you know, vice versa. And when I played defense in high school, like, there are 10 other guys out there on the field with me. And you just learn so many life lessons as a football player throughout my career, just so many things that you can draw from that team experience. And this was a perfect example, I think, of like just team football. And how just it takes everyone to win a game. And it was awesome.
Now, let me ask you this. What is Kyle and Jimmy like on the sidelines when they're struggling like they were on Sunday? Because, you know, we've seen cameras go to other quarterbacks. You know, Tom Brady is known for getting in the face of teammates when things aren't going well, things like that. What are they like on the sideline to try to get things turned around?
They're really calm. You know, honestly, they're Kyle, when, you know, the offense isn't performing well, he's calm to the players. You know, I think he is not calm to the coaching staffs. And that's when you see like some of those like clips of him cursing out his headset and letting whoever the position group is that's letting the team down in the moment to get that crap corrected. And I've been a part of that, where all of a sudden you'll hear our offensive line coach on his headset and he's not talking to anybody. All he's doing is listening, and you can tell he's getting reamed. And then all of a sudden it'll be done. And then his demeanor will change immediately. And he'll be like, I told you guys, when we have this backside block, you have to take your second step vertical. You're getting stretched down the line. I'm sick of it. And you're like, all right, well, that was Kyle verbatim, what he just said to our offensive line coach. So
that's awesome.
But to the players, it is, honestly, it's like Kyle has a great way of understanding and a lot of trust in his offense and coaching staff to get the problem solved, that he's not personally going to the players or the guys. Now, that's from my perspective as an offensive lineman. It probably is different with the quarterback situation. And I have seen him, and I've talked about it before with you guys, that he'll cover his face up and, you know, they don't want the cameras to see what he's actually saying. And I think that's been there from day one, though. That's how Kyle's coached every single quarterback. You know, he's had that way, talking with him about how he coached Matt Ryan, even the year that he won the MVP award. It was very similar, and it was very back and forth and give and take, and very open and honest relationship from the head coach to the quarterback, which is in football and teams in the ultimate team sport. That's the most, what's the word I'm searching for? Is, you know, to say important. It's the most important pairing of the whole entire team, is the communication between a head coach and quarterback, and also vice versa, quarterback to head coach.
Now, Rob, let me jump in here real quick, because I did have one follow-up on this. I wanted to ask, You're not a player anymore, so we don't need the PC answer that you always get in the press conferences. When the other side, you played on offense, so the defense, or vice versa for those other players, when they're struggling as bad as the offense was struggling, do you ever sit there on the sideline going, come on, guys, just get one stop, or get a field goal, if you're on defense?
I'm going to give you a very honest answer. And it might sound PC, but it's not. It's very honest. And it depends. What you're asking depends entirely on the locker room culture. And I have been a part of teams where the locker room's a mess. The team is not tight, from coaching staff, like everything's just a mess. And there's definite cliques, and there's position groups that stick together and all that, offense versus defense. And I've been a part of teams where, yes, it's been exactly that. Like, what more can we do? Like, we're doing everything we can for this team. It's your fault. And I've been a part of teams as well where we have won high scoring games, and we not one time on the sideline as an offense looked at the defense and said, what are they doing? Like, we can't score any more points. It's always been like, it's on, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Like, it's just been like, whatever the challenge is. And the same thing from defense. Like, defense, we've won one low scoring games like it was this last week. And they just been like, it's on us. Let's do it. We got you. We got your back. And to your point though, I mean, that I saw that in 19. I wasn't there in 20, obviously, but I see that from afar now that I'm paying a lot more attention to the team. I see that completely with this roster. Then it starts really with the people that you bring in. It really does. A lot of that core roster was there still when I was playing, and all those guys are team first dudes. They're not pointing the finger at someone else to make sure that they don't get the blame. It's everybody understands when they don't do a good job, they look at themselves. When the team isn't doing well, they look at themselves. It's like, what can I do better? Bring the challenges to me. And I mean, the defense, I can tell you, not even being in there, I know 100% they weren't thinking that on the sidelines in this last game. They were thinking, it's on us. Like, let's just do it. Let's win it for us. Like, we got your back. I know it's a struggle, cold weather, whatever. Like, I know you're not performing as well as you can. We're going to do it. And they did.
You can
That's a mark of a great team. Like, a lot of attention gets put on individual players and positions from the outside, but in the locker room, I can tell you the most important thing and the most important catalyst is the team. And you see it show up every single year in the playoffs. The best teams typically win. So I think that is going to bode well for them going forward. And that's why I was really excited about them getting into the playoffs, because I knew how they were constructed.
They definitely have that kind of all pulling in the same direction vibe, because, I mean, it's kind of gone unnoticed, but the offense only has 2 touchdown drives in the entire playoffs so far. And one of them is a 1-play, 26-yard touchdown run by Deebo. The offense has been struggling a little bit in the playoffs, which has me kind of encouraged for this week, because I just can't picture Kyle's offense struggling again like that. I feel like they're kind of due almost.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to go into it. You can go and look at it like at just the Niners, especially this last game. You can look at it from the Niners perspective, but you can also look at it from what do you think the Green Bay Packer fans are saying this week? They had one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play the game, who couldn't figure out the disguise that the Niners and DeMeco, a first-time coordinator, Ryans, was doing. And I thought he was a masterclass by him. The way that he was able to really confuse Aaron Rodgers in that game. But yeah, I do agree. I mean, obviously this team has been built on, the schematics. They've been a very high scoring, very efficient offense in the second half of the year. Since they've kind of moved Deebo to that running back hybrid position, week 10, they've been incredibly efficient. And we haven't seen that the last 2 weeks, but Murphy's Law, it's going to go back to the mean, it's going to go back to the norm. And I think that does, like, to your point, sets up for a lot of optimism going into this NFC Championship game. And also I think the style of play. I knew going in that this Green Bay front was going to be up to the task to set to go against the running game for the Niners, just because I did think that they were just more inherently, these guys are actual real physical, tough players. Like they have played that way forever. Zadarius Smith coming back, Preston Smith has always had a hard edge. Rashawn Gary, Devontae Campbell in the middle. Like they're a good front. Kenny's 97. Why am I losing his name?
Kenny Clark?
Smith? No, Kenny Clark. Yeah. Those guys are physical players. So I knew it was going to be a challenge. I think it sets up a lot better for the Niners up front in this game against the Rams.
Now I wanted to ask you.
No, I know you're going to say Aaron Donald, but I always look at.
No.
I saw your face.
No, what I was going to say is you kind of said, I think it was on KMBR basically, that the Rams are not as physical as the Niners. And you think the Niners, the reason that they've won is because they just out physical the Rams.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I think they can be that. I've always thought that, and this is not just the Rams, this is just throughout my entire career as a player. When you have teams and players that come out and specifically said in the media, we're going to not be bullied, we're going to be the more physical team, we're going to celebrate like all the run stops and like the big hits, like you're trying to hype yourself up to be something that you're not. And if you look at even the playoffs, like the Rams did that in week 18. They wanted to be the more physical team. It's all you heard about the whole entire week. We have to be more physical. Well, if you're saying that, and you're not really that, that's not your identity. First round of the playoffs with the Cowboys, what did you hear? Bully ball. We're not going to be bullied around. I'm going to set a hard edge. I love setting hard edge. Like DeMarcus Lawrence, no, you don't. You're a hands player. Like you're not an edge setter. Micah Parsons, you could have been completely taken advantage of in the run game off the ball. Like you're a great edge rusher. You're a great talent, but that's not who you were. But you're talking yourself into it. You didn't hear one thing from the Packers. Like I didn't hear one thing all week from the Packers that week of like, hey, we need to be the more physical team. And now with the Rams, you're hearing about, we need to make sure that our fans are there because we need an advantage against them. But I don't know. I think there's something to be said about what's said during the media. And it's not bulletin board material. It's just kind of cold hard facts because that they're trying to talk themselves into being ready for what the Niners do. And I don't think it's an upfront trenches battle. It's more of the skill, speed. You talk about Juwan Jennings, Deebo, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, even like every one of those guys are very, very, very committed to run game and being physical during that. And the secondary of the Rams are not. They're great players individually. They have a great scheme, but they don't want to get hit for 4 quarters. And you've seen that since they played for the last 3 years. It's come to fruition in every single kind of situation, and it might not be pretty early like you saw in the last week, but it will show its head as the game goes on.
Now, you talked about bulletin board material and all that. That leads me to one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Not necessarily what other coaches or players are saying in the lead up to a game, but how much do you guys actually hear or pay attention to what some of the media members will say, the columnists, if they come out criticizing or they come out and say, the way to beat the Niners is to make this guy try to beat you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you guys actually hear that throughout the week or pay attention to it at all?
No, honestly, the only time it gets brought up is if a media member brings it up to us trying to get a reaction or a follow-up. It's really the only time. Yeah. I mean,
like nobody texts you, like, hey, this dude just called you out or whatever.
No, but also I'm a lineman, it's not like I'm a quarterback or a receiver or a big star player. It's probably different for other guys, every situation is unique, but
you're saying Jimmy's phone is blowing up every week?
Oh, his phone never blows up. Everybody knows that he doesn't even look at his phone. He honestly doesn't look at his phone. He's a bad texter. He's a bad texter. He's a bad caller. He doesn't look at anything. The guy doesn't ever on his phone. But But for me, like all my core circle knew that I didn't want to see any of that stuff anyways. So I never got it from them. And then I wouldn't look at it on my own. Your weeks are so during like, especially playoffs, like every single waking minute is spent on film study, practice, getting my body right. There's no time for looking at media stuff. So the only time that I would ever get brought up was be a media member asked me a question and try to get a rise out of me. And then, as you know, I just give well, that's a great opinion by him and a PC answer, and I move on to the next.
You mentioned something a little while ago that I wanted to get into, just talking about DeMeco Ryans, who, like, I'm so mad because I think he's going to get hired. He deserves to get hired, but I just wish we could keep him around. But one thing I noticed when I watched is it seemed like for a lot of the snaps, they had Fred and Dre Greenlaw or Aziz right up on the line of scrimmage, basically almost in the gap on either side of the center. As an offensive lineman, how much does that mess with you in terms of your protections and your assignments and stuff?
How it messes with you is, so usually that's paired with 3 defensive linemen on the opposite side of the center. We call it an overload. And then we'll put a defensive end on the, say for the left side, it'd be a defensive end on the left, then Fred Warner over the B gap. And then you'll have 3 defensive linemen on the opposite side of the center. And then how that messes up is that as a guard on the left side, you don't know if he's actually, going to blitz and rush or if he's dropping back in coverage. So you have to keep eyes on him for a split second until Fred declares, or any linebacker in that situation declares. And so then what that does is on a 3 defensive end side, you will run games. They will run games and they'll run twists, stunts. They'll have one guy go to the A gap, one guy loop around. And really it creates 3 one-on-ones at a different level because the guard is going to be on the line of scrimmage, seeing if Fred's going to be blitzing or not. So he's not able to help. Now, the vice versa, if Fred's off the ball in that situation, in the same exact front configuration, the left guard would then be able to slide to the right. And then you would have 4-on-3, which is a lot easier for an offensive line to pick that up. But if you have a 3-on-3 situation where 3 guys have to switch off 3 different defenders, that becomes a huge problem. And you've seen why they're so successful in that, because Eric Armstead is incredibly powerful at penetrating on the inside. Nick is really good as far as getting guys' shoulders turned from the tackle position and then flipping around. And once you have that combination, it's really hard to switch off those games as offensive linemen.
Now, they're going to obviously be playing the Rams for the 3rd time this year. I was curious, is it a bigger advantage for the offensive lineman or the defensive lineman facing the same guys so much in the same season? Like, is it a big advantage for you because okay, if they're moving in this way, I know that what's coming because I've already gone one-on-one with this guy 30 times this year? Or is it the other way around?
I've always thought it was a lot easier for offensive linemen in those situations. The more familiarity you can get, you can feel what their actual bull rush is. The more reps you have against a guy, you understand, like, what does Aaron Rodgers what does Aaron Donald's bull rush feel like actually, as a tackle? What does Von Miller's ghost move that he does with his, outside hand, what does that feel like actually? And what is that speed like? You can get a true sense. And I've always hated going against guys that I had never faced as an offensive lineman in the past. And then having that familiarity as an offensive lineman is crucial because we're much more technical. It's a much more technical position. It's all about tempo, steps, being in the right position when you get those steps. And then also hand placement, understanding where the contact point is on a defender. It's different on every single guy. And what's most effective, and I think when you first go against a player, you try to get a true sense of their ability, and then you try to construct a game plan off of that. And typically you'll see as offensive linemen, it will benefit them going down the road. Because defensive linemen, as much as everybody loves to watch them, they're athletic based. It's an athletic based position. And if you're powerful and strong, I don't care who you're going against, you're typically going to have success. But there are guys that really dedicate themselves to the technique as offensive linemen that can negate anything that's, athletic and power based.
Did you, when Kyle sent Trent Williams in motion, jump out of your chair and start cheering. Because first of all, I never saw him run that play with you. And second of all, I would be terrified if I'm on the defense and Trent Williams is coming at me with a running start.
So I saw McKivitz come in and I already knew what was happening. I saw him coming from the sidelines from the huddle. I saw 68, I believe his number is, and saw him go into the huddle. And I was like, we were watching the game and I was like, I go, Trent Williams is going to play the fullback position and he's going to run this play, because I had gotten a chance to sit down and interview Trent earlier in the year. And he had told me off camera, he was like, I've been asking Kyle to put me in this position as the same side motion guy when we run. That concept's called Zorro. It's basically the fullback and the tight end on the edge setter up to the safety. And so he was like, I'm waiting for Kyle to use me as a fullback position on Zorro. And I was like, shut up. Are you serious? That's a genius thing. Is he going to do it? He's like, he's waiting for either like a huge game or the playoffs. And so I thought originally he was using it in week 18, didn't. And then he didn't see it in the playoffs, but then once we or against the Cowboys, and then once I saw it in the Green Bay game, I got really excited. And then he delivered too. I mean, he launched.
Oh my
God! He launched that guy out of his seat. So
yeah, might see that more in weeks to come. So there's not much you can do about it.
I mean, not even that. Think about the play action. I mean,
yes.
Forget Trent runs like a 4.6, 4.7. He is faster than what he was when he came out of college. Could you imagine him? I know he's got like, some injuries he's dealing with right now, but could you imagine if he did that and then ran a wheel route up the sideline? Like, I'm not talking about a flat little like you need to run a go pattern to Trent, because I guarantee he probably, if he gets a step on a linebacker in coverage, he would outrun him.
That would be. Juice might be jealous if you do that.
Who would be?
Juice, when we talked to him earlier this year, he was saying that he's always telling Kyle, I want my wheel route.
All he wants is that one wheel route off of the play action week. It's the week action, and then Juice. He's really good at that though.
He's
really
open
good.
Every time.
Yeah.
Well, because he sells it correctly. He goes down there and he just has like a great little spin move. I think he could have been like a great Division II defensive end. Could have been like not Division I at all, but maybe like high Division II, probably.
Now I want to see that Trent play. Like, give me Trent Williams on a wheel route. Like, oh my God, it's 2nd and 7, and there's Jimmy chucking it up to Trent running down the sideline, and the
Maybe
Rams are just like, what the?
I will say this: so if the Niners do make it to the Super Bowl, win this game, there will be like 4 or 5 crazy trick plays that Kyle will install in those 2 weeks. We didn't run a lot of them, actually. I don't even know if we ran any of them because they never came up in the opportunity in 19, but there was like 5 or 6 crazy double pass, tackle eligible, like things that would just be like Philly special style, but to the nth degree that he's going to have. So that could eventually be in there.
Yeah, some of those might involve Trey Lance with his athleticism.
Yeah, maybe
throw that out there,
huh?
Yeah,
I know you guys would.
Why are you gonna be negative, Joe?
So I lived in.
I know you guys would. You took that in a negative way.
I got that Lance thing back there. I lived in North Dakota for 10 years, so I'm kind of big on the Trey Lance even before he was a Niner. But
before it was cool.
Yeah. Before you got to interview him and didn't invite me.
Yeah, well, that wasn't by accident.
No, I did want to ask about one specific play. It wasn't really a trick play, but it surprised me. And that was that final drive, the 3rd and 7. I see Deebo go in the backfield. I'm like, there's no way they're running. They're just doing that as a decoy, maybe a play action to him to try to get a pass. I didn't even think there's no way they're going to go 3rd and 7 and try to run it. And then he gets the ball, and goes to show how much I know. At first I was like, you got to be kidding me. You did that, Kyle? You ran the ball and you're just going to hope Gold can hit a 55-yard field goal? And then of course he gets the first down. Were you surprised that he actually handed the ball off?
Not at all. I think the way that game was going, it was difficult to kind of move the ball through the passing game. And I think you don't overthink it in a situation like that. Who's our best player? Deebo. Who's been most clutch for this team this whole entire year? Deebo. He's been in that situation before, called his shot in the Dallas game, or Yeah, no,
Yeah, it was a Dallas
Rams game.
Dallas, yeah.
Dallas called a shot a lot of
One of
times this year. He, I think you just put the ball in his hands and you let him go to work. And if you even watch that play back, it wasn't blocked perfectly, but it was an unbelievable cut at the line of scrimmage that he cut from the right to the inside on the left. And then he got touched probably 2 yards, 3 yards past the line of scrimmage, and then broke a tackle, drug 3 guys forward for 5 yards. Like, that's the thing about Deebo, is like, he understands situations. If it's a second down run, when it's 2nd and 10, I mean, he's always going to try his best, but it's like, he's not going to
stay up and open himself to get in.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, he's not going to like open himself up for injuries and all that stuff. Like, there's a finesse kind of way to run the ball to make sure you're healthy at it. Frank Gore did an amazing job throughout his whole career. Deebo has that same way, but he understood the situation and he knows that he has to get those yards no matter what. And Kyle trusts him completely. And I think this offense trusts him completely. And it was a great job by him.
Kyle said he actually had a pass called before that, and then he called timeout and changed it to a run.
Smart decision.
I mean, I know in that moment, I literally tweeted before the play, I was like, just give it to Deebo. Like, just put the ball in the hands of your
so
best
smart.
dude. Well, I think that's clear. You always agree with all my tweets, right?
Yeah. We have a long history of that so far in the last week and a half.
Actually,
I see a lot of your tweets, and I don't think I've agreed with maybe 1 or 2 of them.
Wow. How about a little retweet action? Give me some clout or something. I mean, geez.
Now who's begging
I
for
haven't
stuff?
agreed
Jeez.
with. I've only agreed with maybe 1 or 2 of them.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, you misheard me there.
Like I said, Rob is emotional, so you see that in his tweets.
If you watch the game with me, it's an aerobic exercise. You mentioned the crowd noise. Clearly, like, McVay admitted we were not ready for that. But now you got to think that even if the Niners do take it over, like, the Rams are going to be prepared for that. Is it going to be as big of an advantage this time around?
Yeah, it's always going to be an advantage, because anytime you have to go silent count as an offense, that is a complete advantage. It really is. I'm not kidding you. Like, if you play on the road, and I know we were laughing about Kelly Stafford, Matthew Stafford's wife, saying, he had to go silent count. But if you have to do that in anywhere, it's a huge advantage, because you don't, as offensive lineman in the running game, if you're banking on the center to give his head bob to come off the ball, you're not able to load properly in your stance. Like, you're not able to have the anticipation of when that ball is actually going to be snapped. If it affects everything on an offense, having to use silent count. That's the main reason, really, why it's so much more difficult for an offense to operate on the road as it is at home. And I think if you have that, the Niners fans are going to travel well. It's going to be even more, I think, fans that are going to be there than it was last time. I think it's going to be a huge advantage for them again. I was talking actually to Chris Furster, the O-line coach of the Niners, and I was asking him, it was before the Rams and the Bucks played, and I was like, who you guys scheming up right now? And he was kind of saying both teams, like there was nothing, but I was like, you should be scheming up the Rams. You should be wanting to play, because you're going to have a home game. You're going to have a home NFC Championship game if you get to play the Rams. And I think you're going to see that on Sunday.
Yeah, and then they can return there for the Super Bowl 2 weeks later. But
how satisfying is that, by the way? You beat the Rams in their house to get in. You beat them in the conference championship. And then if you win the Super Bowl, you'd have to win in the same play. It really would be Levi South at that point.
It is. I think it would 100% be that. So it's going to be an exciting game to watch.
Yeah. I did want to ask, from the playing 3 times, you guys did it against the Seahawks. You didn't do it in Kyle's tenure, but you play the divisional opponents a lot, twice a year. How much does the game plan actually change when you play them the second time? Does he change things, make it from scratch, the offensive game plan, or is it basically the same concepts and he might just tweak something to make the defense, second guess themselves, like changing who's in motion or swapping a route here or there?
Yeah, it definitely changes. To your core of who your identity is as an offense, it's not going to change. My whole time with Kyle, whenever we played division opponents, it's not like you're going into a game And the second time he's gonna be like, all right, we're gonna run 4 or 5 wide spread. Everything's gonna be done. Like it's still the core of who you are as an offense, but definitely concepts, where we would use different. So every kind of run play has a tag word, and there's probably 30, 40 different tag words off of a zone blocking scheme. And they'll build a game plan off of that. So you usually go in a game with like, hey, these are 10, 12 concepts we really like. Here are 5 or 6 others that we think that could be good, depending on what happens. And that's what you do in the run game. And you've had situations where you've run that certain kind of concept in game 1, didn't work. And then you kind of switch it that way, but it's still a wide zone. It's still, it's just kind of different, a little bit structure from the front of how it's portrayed on the field. But that's really where the schematics happen, and maybe building it out a little bit, where if you have a lot of success, even in game 1, saying, all right, well, let's build a package off of that looks like what we did the last time, but it's a little bit different. And so they'll be thinking that, and then we'll have a whole package off of that. So, I think Kyle is the master at that, and he's been since he's been in the league. And that's really what makes him as an offensive play caller, is his ability to always anticipate adjustments. And not really related to your question, but I also think DeMeco Ryans has done a tremendous job of that. And as a defensive play caller, his first year, and I think nothing was more true than this last game. That first series, I really saw a defense that came out there with a certain game plan, and they got completely, just taken to the woodshed in that first series. And then DeMeco on the sidelines just said, all right, is that how they want to play us? Here's what we're going to do. And it's like in game, boom, I'm going to anticipate everything you're doing. I'm going to make it really difficult. And I thought it was just a tremendous job by him.
All right. This has been a nice little interview, but I'm going to call you out a little bit, Joe. I disagreed with something that you said. Again, I can't remember if it was on a post-game show or where, but like, you've played in 4 conference championship games, and somebody asked you, like, what is it like getting ready this week? Is it more important? Is it bigger? And you were like, no, it's just a plain old regular week. I can't believe that. Like,
did I say
nobody's
that?
more pumped up about it? Like, it's the friggin' conference championship game. If you win, you go to the Super Bowl.
Well, the reason I said that was in 2011, we played the New York Giants. I thought the real reason, looking back in the offseason, of the reason why we really failed, especially as an offense in that game, was because we put so much pressure on the situation. That whole week we were like talking about, hey, we win this one game, we're going to be in the Super Bowl, exactly that. And I went in, a lot of the players went in with really tight back ends. Like, we were very, don't make a mistake, thinking about a lot of negatives instead of just thinking about like what we've done to get to that point. And I know I can speak for myself, but I think I speak for a lot of the other players that we were on the field with. And then I think moving forward, we got in the same situation the next year against the Atlanta Falcons. And one of the real reasons I think that we were able to come back in that game was because, we all had a team meeting the night before, a players only meeting the night before, and everybody kind of got up. And the overall message from a lot of different players was, it was a lesson that we learned the year before. It was a lesson of trust the work that we've done to get to this point. This game is important. Yeah, let's not shy away from it. It's an important game, but we don't need to do anything different. You don't need to look at it like a different game. Like, we are good enough to win this game based on the work that we put in, who we are as an identity, who our team is, and we can be successful. So when we got down 17-0 in that game, there was no real panic on the sideline. We were like, we just have to get back to what we're doing. Like, we just have to run the ball. Let's get a couple of first downs. Defense, get a stop. Let's play football. Like, we were all on the same page in that way. And I think that was a real catalyst for us to come back and win that game. And I think that was a good lesson for myself and everybody else, is the game and the stakes might be higher, but at the end of the day, you really are. And if it sounds cliche, it is, but it's really true, because I've experienced it on both sides. If you make more out of what the situation is, you tend to freeze up as a competitor under that pressure. But if you go in confident and prepared and look at it like, hey, I'm ready for this, and this is a game, and then don't put that added pressure of the moment on your shoulder, then you go out there and be the best.
That's the no nonsense, emotionless approach I like there, Joe.
Oh, shut up.
I did want to ask, there's one big variable that is unknown at this point going in the game, and that's whether Trent Williams plays or not. I think he probably does, but it's unknown. I was going to ask you, how much do you think that would change Kyle's play calling if he can't go?
I don't know if it would change his play calling. The last time the Rams played, Trent didn't play in that game. The Niners played the Rams. And I thought McKivitz did a good job. They did have to give him a lot of help. Maybe not a lot, but they definitely gave him attention over there on the edge and made sure that there was chips and presence on all the pass blocking. And they had to do, combinations as much as they could over there. I would be very shocked if Trent wasn't playing this week, just because, getting to know him and the competitor that he is. Also, his playoff success rate to this season's not been great. As a guy that's been in the league for 12 years, you don't waste opportunities to play in the NFC Championship game. So I would expect him to be out there, just give everything he has. And then if he's out there and he's hurting the team, I think he's going to be honest to be like, hey, me at 50% is not better than McKivitz at 100. So get him in there.
So if the Niners make the Super Bowl, what's your plan? Where are you going to be? Are you going to be at the game? What's going on with Joe Staley?
If they make the Super Bowl, I will be down in Levi's. I think we're doing shows down there, or not Levi, but SoFi. We're going to be Levi South.
Yeah.
We'll be down there at Levi South. And we'll be down there from Wednesday night to Sunday after the game. I did say to the producers of the show, if they win the Super Bowl, don't count me in on the show. Like, I'm not. I am charging the field. I will figure out a way to get on that field. I will get arrested if I need to be, but I am lifting up all my buddies and I am celebrating harder than anybody if they win the Super Bowl. So I told them, like, no. Well, I mean, yeah, I should see if I can get Jed on there.
There you go. Come on, Jed, do the right thing.
I wanted to ask you, you just talked about your time with NBC Sports. There's something you've done a couple of times with them, and you did it again this past Sunday, and that's, you're showing off your dance moves. So I wanted to ask a personal question of, if Dancing with the Stars called you, because I would think you're a prime candidate, would you go on that show?
So, and this is a legit answer. I don't know if she was just feeding me something that she thought I might want to hear, but at the time, Aaron Andrews was the host of Dancing with the Stars. And this was way back when the Niners were good. I think it was 13, 14, like post 3 NFC Championship games. And she said, because we had done a bunch of interviews together, got to know each other a little bit. And she was like, I've been telling our producer that we need to get you on the show. Like, we've showed Joe show stuff. We need to get you on the show. I think it'd be crazy if they had an offensive lineman that was on there. It'd be so much fun. And I was like, no, there's no way. I would be so uncomfortable in that situation because as much as I like to goof around, that's more of a serious dance where you actually have to do stuff.
Hey, you could get pointers from Jerry Rice.
Yeah, see, I don't like the limelight as much as Jerry likes the limelight.
Jerry does like the limelight. It's hard. I've heard it's hard work. Jerry's talked about that, like the training and the stuff that goes into that. Like, it's legit, like up early, training all day. It's no joke.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a joke. I think it'd be incredibly hard, and I didn't want to at 310 pounds to do that. So, and I highly, highly doubt that they're looking for old retired offensive lineman anymore.
Hey, so. If somebody like David Ross from baseball can go when he retires, I mean, that's a catcher.
He was a World Series winning catcher. He struck while the iron was hot.
That's true.
He got himself on there.
You missed your window, Joe.
I did. It's all about, taking the most of your opportunities when they're presented to you.
Joe, you could wear the socks during one of the dances.
That's true.
I do.
You'd become a
socks.
fan
I have
favorite.
to send them still. Maybe I'm gonna overnight them. I actually have them. They're upstairs. I don't want to go get them right now, but
See, now you're creating a dilemma for me though. Let's say you overnight them, right? And they're here in time for the game. Do I wear the new socks or then do I go?
No.
No,
You break them
right?
out for next year.
Okay.
Yeah, you break them out for next year.
Well, there you go. All right, Joe. Thank you very much.
Do not
again.
break any tradition. Do not break any traditions that you have right now currently.
Yes, Levin. That includes
No
you, Mr.
superstitions.
I'm not
Mr.
superstitious.
Prayer.
Yes.
Yeah, you can keep praying.
There you go.
Gosh,
Joe,
look at my
thank you.
fingers. They're so messed up.
Dude, the weirdest fingers. I guess I
Ooh,
maybe
there
shouldn't
it
say
is.
this, but I interviewed Jarvis Green. I don't know if you remember him. He played for the Patriots in the early to mid 2000s.
Okay.
Man, it was right after he retired. He showed me his hands. He said that's why he retired. He like literally couldn't like hold them still. He said he always jammed offensive linemen. That was his move. And so he had all this crazy, and his fingers were like, he couldn't get his Super Bowl rings on because his fingers were all messed up.
What a flex to say, I
Wow.
can't get my Super Bowl rings on.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh,
sorry, your
man.
fingers hurt, Jarvis
Yeah.
Green.
Yeah, that's
I
like
have
Tom
this,
Brady.
and I can't get any Super Bowl rings on because I didn't win any. You know the
Maybe
story on this? So this was the Seattle game when I got absolutely destroyed by Jadeveon Clowney on Monday night in 19. And we were talking about playing through injuries and like how guys can play through injuries because they have so much adrenaline going. I completely shattered this knuckle. The knuckle right here got completely shattered. I didn't know it until the next morning. I woke up and my finger, like this part of the finger, was just like it was here and then it was just here. And I went in and in the morning I was like, my finger's messed up. And they took an image and they were like, yeah, you don't have a knuckle anymore. So I had to go in and I had to get this completely like, it's all plates. I had to get it like plated to put the joint back in. And then they put 2 pins in there. And then I played the rest of the year with it through the Super Bowl. And then because I played so long with it, I was supposed to get the pins out. And now it's fused together because I couldn't get any kind of treatment on it. So
You got to be sitting there
things you do
thinking,
for football, man.
I almost made it all the way through. And then this
almost made
happens
it.
in my last year.
Yeah. And then I was like, and then also when we were in the Super Bowl, I was like, yeah, if we get a Super Bowl ring, I mean, I'm not sure how I'm going to put it on. I'm just going to have to take my wedding ring off and say I'm married to football. I'm married to football.
Oh my
Wife
My
God.
wife
probably
would be
would say
upset
you
about
are.
that.
I mean,
My wife would be upset about that.
That is, oh man, that sucks. One of the 10,000 reasons I would could never, ever go anywhere near a football field. I would be just hearing about that would make me want to retire like immediately. That's insane.
There's so
that's
many
not a
crazy
normal.
stories for injuries.
What's
I
that?
played a game. There's so many crazy stories. I mean, talk about injuries. Like there's so many crazy ones.
injuries the media and fans never found out
the
about.
people have no idea about.
Like what?
Playing through different things and just it's always like, yeah, he's dealing with a elbow injury, but you actually see it and it's like he's wearing a brace because if he doesn't wear a brace, like it actually just pops out of socket.
Oh my God.
Or you know,
Let me ask you this: how
guys are
honest
like,
is
oh, I
the
got a
injury
shoulder,
report?
I got a shoulder thing, and it, like in the season they have completely like shoulder reconstruction surgery.
Right.
I mean, I've actually played on a broken leg where like, you know, where it broke, I could feel it as I was planting, like moving.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So like,
How honest
just
is
weird.
the injury report each week? Like how many injuries
honest as
exist
far as-
that aren't listed?
no, there's not a lot. There's not as far as injury report and like not listing them. They're all reported because that is
Big no.
if you're you could be in the, I mean, you could, they're over reported actually for injuries, but the injuries guys actually play through are much more extensive. Like a lot of guys have played through really extensive knee injuries. You know, I remember playing through a bunch of multiple knee injuries where, you know, if you run and your MCL's messed up, you run, you can feel your bottom of your leg swinging side to side because it's like stretched as a ligament. And so I remember playing through that, and you know, all that stuff is just very commonplace.
If you
in the
breathe,
NFL,
man,
so.
you're out there. It's insane. Like that's not a normal. I call out of work if I get a sore throat.
Yeah, there was never a sick day.
Rob,
No
you
sick
work from
days.
home.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've that's what I joke about.
Who do you
people.
call your wife? hey, I'm not going down to the basement today.
It's a ridiculous. This just proves how ridiculous this job is, right? I could do this job just as well in a full body cast, but if I have a sore throat or lose my voice, I can't go to work. There's no other job like it on the planet.
Yeah.
Joe is losing respect for me by the minute.
I understand. Yeah. No, I feel you. I've actually lost my voice screaming for the Niners, and they were like, "Stop screaming." I'm like, "Why?" I'm excited. They're like, "Because then you won't be able to talk after the game's done."
Well, Greg Papa couldn't talk last week on the call.
Oh man, did you hear that?
I don't know what happened, but
I talked to him. I talked to him on Monday. I do a radio show with him, and talked to him on Monday. And I was like, first question I asked him, I was like, how's your voice, man? Do you recover from all the screaming you were doing? He goes, I think I overlayered, and so I just didn't have the right. I was like, all right, you need to drink some more, whatever. But his voice sounded terrific. He's back.
This might bring you back, but all this talk about voice reminds me of Brady Hoke, the old Ball State coach, because he literally didn't have much of a voice to begin with. And in his post-game press conferences, you literally couldn't understand him. I remember I have a college buddy that we've had him on the show. He covers the Packers. We used to have to try to like sit there and like work together on, okay, what did he actually say there? Because his voice would just be cracking left and right.
They're screaming so much.
He just had a voice that would go like the first time he screams, his voice was gone.
Well, I've had a couple of guys that I knew that played for him at various stops, either Michigan, San Diego State, all that, and Ball State, and they said that he's a yeller. I mean, big time yeller. So when you take a big time yeller like that also loses his voice very fast, and it's gonna go. So.
Well, I'll be losing my voice. I'll be losing my mind if the 49ers win this one. Well, I shouldn't say one, but one more game. They'll be in the Super Bowl. I can't even say it out loud. Every time I say it, I
Have you ever thought that when they were 3-5?
No, like I didn't quite put it this way when I texted Rob earlier this week, but it like dawned on me today. Like, wait, we actually have a chance of being in the Super Bowl. Like, what's that mean for us in terms of like podcast network, all that? And I was like, that hadn't even entered my head, but we've talked about it, in the off season and stuff. Like if the Niners make the Super Bowl, what would we do? Just hadn't even come into my head because of the way the season started.
And
magical season.
They've had a bye in week 6. This team must be exhausted. The best part about getting to the Super Bowl is going to be the week off.
Yeah. And I don't think they want it to stop though. They probably want to keep it going.
How much of a week off is it a week off prior to the Super Bowl with all the crap you guys have to do, press conference?
No, it is, because you still practice. I mean, it's not really a week off. It's just like the week off from playing a game, but you practice the whole week, and then you got a lot of other stuff to get orchestrated with the families and friends and tickets and the security meetings and all that stuff that you got going. And then you take you got to fly down there on Saturday or Sunday, and you have a whole bunch of hoopla with that. And then you have like a welcome get together, and then you're done. And then it's like focused on the stuff, but it's not a huge distraction, honestly.
I felt like you don't get there in 2019 if you didn't get that number 1 seed in the week off.
Yeah, probably that year. I think this year would be different. Yeah, I think they needed to play that. I think if they had that week off, it would have been bad for their mojo.
Well, the mojo's all good right now, and let's hope it stays that way for 2 more weeks. Joe Staley, thank you again, Joe. We really, really appreciate it. Keeping the tradition alive.
Keep it going.
Right.
Yeah. Superstitious podcast right here.
All right, Joe. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Let's talk to you guys next week and then the following week, because they're, a little break there. So
that's true. Thanks.
All right. See you guys.